Chapter 1. What is dark psychology? Before we take a look at some of the methods that come with dark psychology and how it can be used against you, it is essential to know precisely what this form of psychology is about. Psychology, or an understanding of how the human mind works, is a part of all of our lives. Psychology is going to underpin everything in our lives, from advertising to finance, crime to religion, and even from hate to love. Someone who is able to understand these psychological principles is someone who really holds onto the key to human influence. So, if only a few people really understand psychology and how the human mind works, why is it so important to know what this is? It is because those who do know what it is and how to use it can choose to use that power and that knowledge against you. Dark psychology is always present in the world. There are always those who will search for the weaknesses in others in order to benefit themselves. Being able to understand dark psychology is not just a defensive measure. There are a lot of principles and ideas found within the world of dark psychology. Once you have pulled back the curtain of the world of dark psychology, you will find that there is so much more to human nature than you ever imagined. Let's take a look at how this can work. How is dark psychology used today? While some people are going to use these dark psychology tactics in order to harm their victim, there are times when you may use these tactics without the intent of negatively manipulating another person. Some of these tactics, 2. Of means that could include: when you were a child, you would see how adults, especially those close to you, behaved. When you were a teenager, the mind and your ability to understand the behaviors around you were expanded indeed. You were able to watch others use the tactics and then succeed. Using the tactics may have been unintentional in the beginning, but when you found that it worked to get you what you wanted, you would start to use those tactics in an intentional manner. Some people, such as a politician, a public speaker, or a salesperson, would be trained to use these types of tactics to get what they want. Dark psychology tactics that are used on a regular basis. Love flooding. This would include any buttering up, praising, or complimenting people to get them to comply with the request that you want. If you want someone to help you move some items into your home, you may use love flooding in order to make them feel good, which could make it more likely that they will help you. A dark manipulator could also use it to make the other person feel attached to them and then get them to do things that they may not normally do. Lying. This would include telling the victim an untrue version of the situation. It can also include a partial truth or exaggerations with the goal of getting what you wanted to be done. Love denial. This one can be hard on the victim because it can make them feel lost and abandoned by the manipulator. This one basically includes withholding affection and love until you are able to get what you want out of the victim. Withdrawal. This would be when the victim is given the silent treatment or is avoided until they meet the needs of the other person. Restricting choices. The manipulator may give their victim access to some choices, but they do this in order to distract them from the choices that they don't want the victim to make. Semantic manipulation. This is a technique where the manipulator is going to use some commonly known words, ones that have accepted meanings by both parties, in a conversation. But then they will tell the victim, later on, that they had meant something completely different when they used that word. The new meaning is often going to change up the entire definition and could make it so that the conversation goes the way the manipulator wanted, even though the victim was tricked. Reverse psychology. This is when you tell someone to do something in one manner, knowing that they will do the opposite. But the opposite action is what the manipulator wanted to happen in the first place. Who will deliberately use dark tactics? There are many different people who may choose to use these shady tactics against you. They can be found in many different aspects of your life, which is why it is so important to learn how to stay away from them. Some of the people who are able to use some of these dark psychology tactics deliberately include narcissists. These individuals are going to have a bloated sense of their own self-worth, and they will have the need to make others believe that they are superior as well. In order to meet their desires of being worshipped and adored by everyone they meet, they will use persuasion and dark psychology. Sociopaths. Those who are sociopaths are charming, intelligent, and persuasive. But they only act this way to get what they want. They lack any emotions, and they are not able to feel any remorse. This means that they have no issue with using the tactics of dark psychology to get what they want, including taking it as far as creating superficial relationships. Politicians. With the help of dark psychology, a politician could convince someone to cast votes for them merely by convincing these people that their point of view is the right one. Salespeople. Not all salespeople are going to use dark tactics against you. But it is possible that some, especially those who are really into getting their sales numbers and being the best, will not think twice about using dark persuasion to manipulate people. Leaders. Throughout history, there have been plenty of leaders who will use the techniques of dark psychology to get their team members, subordinates, and citizens to do what they want. Selfish people. This could be any person that you come across who will make sure that their own needs are put before anyone else's. They aren't concerned about others, and they will let others forego their benefits so that they can benefit. If the situation benefits them, it is fine if it benefits someone else. But if someone is going to be the loser, it will be the other person and not them. This list is important because it is going to serve two purposes. First, it is going to help you be more aware of the people who may try to manipulate you to do things that you don't want to do, and it can be there to help out with self-realization. Being on the lookout for those who want to get something out of you, without any concerns about how it will affect you, is one of the main goals of this book so that you can arm yourself against dark psychology.
History of dark psychology and its impact on the modern world. Dark psychology is such a matter of concern. Why is it still considered such a newly established part of the psychological field? Some of the key reasons for this is that while psychology overall is still a recent phenomenon in medical literature, dark psychology is an area of research. Is one of the latest innovations in psychology since it has been recognized as a significant topic in modern culture. Dark psychology made a big impact on the field in the early era as psychologists around the world were motivated and inspired to understand cyber criminals better, starting to collect information that had been gathered about criminal psychology and analyzing individuals to either capture them or anticipate their next exploits before they ever had an opportunity to set them off. Study into the personality traits associated with dark psychology, also known as malevolence characteristics, has been underway for decades, contributing to some of the world's biggest advances in justice and criminal law, such as criminal profiling and investigative branches of service devoted to research and development from county-level police to foreign enforcement teams at government levels. 2. Introduction of new regulations to protect US from the evilest among us who would not have been punished by law before. 3. Stretching prison sentences for the most evil, or delivering psychiatric and social treatment for their disorders that were not acknowledged by medical and legal institutions in the years before a particular case. Currently, dark psychology is well considered to be of special concern to those examining the minds, emotions, and behavior of offenders operating within the cyber world for tactical gain and worldwide advantage. Across the entertainment industry, there have been numerous applications made for it which continue to be investigated, including high-quality insightful shows on true crime cases and fictitious criminals and crime solvers with profound and humanizing qualities that have drawn people's interest at all political, academic, social, and class levels all over the globe. More than anything, dark psychology and its increasing prominence have caused all those who are unwilling to accept the darker aspects of human nature to rise and take note, acknowledging the fact that even the happiest and most positive of people may be characterized by darker traits. Each individual is made up of both positive and negative attributes, habits, and behaviors that are influenced or created by events that they have experienced and the people who surround them. It is perfectly natural for each person to have questions about their personality, feelings, emotions, and behavior that can be answered by the research and studies undertaken in dark psychology. How dark psychology affects humans. There are 9 personality traits that researchers usually associate with people who are of interest to dark psychology analysis. Sometimes recognized as the traits of malevolence, these character indicators shape the basis of darker personalities, and knowing them will help to identify their use around you, whether deliberate or otherwise. 2 can make a pattern. Displaying only one of the recognizable characteristics is not enough for anyone to be firmly branded a dark personality. If they only fall within one group of indicators, then it might only be a chance of experiencing a childhood trauma or a challenging series of conditions that they encounter that proves to have a huge impact on the development of that individual's personality. In situations such as these, where the trait is dangerous to the person or others, or where the person is unable to recognize this aspect of himself or herself and creates certain psychological problems, the person may seek the help of a counselor or other psychological health provider to recognize their issues and to figure out how best to handle them in the future. Here is a closer look at the dark traits shown and established in individuals who are guided by their dark psychology. Narcissism. Narcissists are people whose behavior, feelings, and interests center around their well-being and success above others, and often to the detriment of others. This personality feature is influenced by the Greek myth of Narcissus, a man who spent his life in love with his own image. Narcissists tend not to operate well in organizations and can instantly be outraged if others seek to supervise them. 2. Excessively reactive egos, often widely referred to as egotists. Individuals with overly sensitive egos may appear like narcissists on paper. But there is a crucial distinction between them. Like narcissists, individuals with overly sensitive egos are concerned about their development and success in life, but unlike narcissists who have an inherently high view about themselves, egotists and others who exhibit this tendency evaluate their self-worth based on what others think about them. When others praise them, their self-worth improves, and they can perform without paying too much attention to their environment, whether at work or at home. It is when egotists and others with excessively sensitive egos are rebuked or questioned that their deeper side shows, and it can show itself in several ways, such as complacency or antisocial behaviors. 3. Elevated self-interest. Individuals with elevated self-interest are also centered on their own advancement and well-being, to the extent of fleeing or leaving others. This attribute is often associated with remarkable personal ambition and motivation that enables them to stand out among their colleagues. Sadly, like narcissists and egotists, they may not perform well in team or community settings but seem to succeed in leadership positions and having control over others as long as they have somebody to answer to that has a more moderate or positive temperament and behavioral style. IV. Personal entitlement. These are individuals who believe that everything on this planet should belong to them. While the nuances differ from person to person, entitled individuals feel they deserve what they see others getting. It could be trivial, like belongings or the sum of money that someone else makes. It could be broader than that, believing that they deserve love and affection without needing to earn it or find it, as most people do. Their darkest traits emerge when they have been refused something to which they believe they are entitled. One of the most prominent instances of moral privilege used in trait analysis is that of spoiled children. Entitlement is an acquired characteristic that many individuals grow out of in their adolescent years or into adulthood, but it can be prompted or triggered by factors such as financial status, social class, and personal success or loss, based on individual circumstances. Manipulative tendency. People living on the dark side of psychology are considered to have a talent for deceit. This may be as subtle as using a talent for deception to ensure that they have the best sales figures each week, to those who use their talents for political gain, or find themselves influencing others through mind control and other destructive tactics. Sometimes referred to as the Machiavellian characteristic, those who display expertise for the strategic coercion of others for their benefit are named after the political scientist Niccolo Machiavelli. Machiavelli's political views were centered on the principle that the means used to accomplish a certain objective are often worth it in the end, often irrespective of the cost or harm caused, as long as the manipulator is not adversely affected. Moral disengagement. This is the term widely used to characterize people who truly believe that any laws in effect do not apply to them. Those who have this behavioral trait are considered to believe that they are above the law and are thus free to take action that others would find immoral or unethical without having any sort of moral obligation, remorse, or embarrassment after the act. Psychopathy and psychopathic tendencies. An individual who has been labeled a psychopath has been described by qualified psychologists or personality specialists as having a personality disorder called psychopathy, in which a person lacks sympathy or compassion for anyone or anything. The term psychopath has invaded the mainstream vocabulary as a well-known generic term for serial killers and other delinquents that fall into the type of character. They have become popular in TV series and horror movies, but this remains one of the most misconstrued characteristics that is still being explored and researched, because more and more is being discovered about the psychopathic mind. Sadism and sadistic behaviors. A sadist is someone who has been described as displaying sadistic behavioral patterns or, as part of their developed personality, having a propensity towards inflicting suffering or embarrassment to others and getting gratification from these misdeeds as a way of expressing their dominance and control over others. The harm does not always have to be physical or psychological. This personality trait is often related to sexual dominance as well as to the demonstration of emotional and psychological control. Spitefulness and malicious predispositions. Malice is the intention and ability to inflict harm or to cause damage, and also the readiness to take such action even if it means injuring oneself in the process physically, mentally, or psychologically. These malicious features can appear in any variety of human behaviors but should be taken very seriously when they are identified and treated with the utmost caution, as the risk of personal damage by association is elevated with those who have daily interactions with malicious individuals. The dark triad and their roles in dark psychology. While all of the characteristics described above can be seen in individuals with dark personality traits, there are three key attributes that some psychologists say must be present for anyone to be considered a focus for dark psychology. Manipulation, psychopathy, and narcissism are the core components of what is known in psychological contexts as the dark triad. The dark triad is the basis for most of the dark psychology studies, as these traits are the three most prominent attributes exhibited by those who are researched within the field of dark psychology.